we'd like to start with a moment of reflection. Again, before we get into the approval of the agendas, so we'll start with the moment of reflection now. All right, thank you very much. And tonight we have a consent agenda. Anyone wishing to make a motion or to pull anything from the consent agenda? Councillor Wolstenholme. Okay. Motion to approve the consent agenda. If there's no further discussion, call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. And a regular meeting agenda, we've been asked for an additional intermunicipal intergovernmental relations item, so that'd be item K3. If there is no other changes or edits, request a motion to approve with the one additional item. Councillor Fox makes the motion. Call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. For the good of council, does anyone have something they wish to share with the whole council? It's been 2 cold weeks, lots going on in town for snow cleanup and maybe ice clearing. But any other comments? Councillor Monteith?
At the end of February, the Fort McLeod Curling Club is holding a corporate challenge, and Christine and I are going to be curling, and anyone else who would like to, just let us know. It's 5:15 on the Friday, the 28th, I think it is. Yeah, so it'll be fun. So anyone, just let us know if you want to curl.
Is that a town team? Ooh, 28th? Oh, I know. And Councillor Henniger?
This business has been open for a few months now, but I don't think we formally recognized Missy's Collective. They're out of the Greer block, and it's Indigenous owned and operated. She's open Monday to Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so her lights are on downtown right now. But I just wanted to welcome that awesome handmade goods, workshops, and supply through Missy's Collective to our Main Street and Fort McLeod.
Couple items I was going to mention. On the 31st of January, I was able to head down to Cardston for a meeting with the MOU, and did have an opportunity to meet the new Kainai chief, Travis Bladedhair, and that was a very good discussion, and I look forward to having more discussions with him. He definitely seems to be very interested in working together with the regional partners, and the 2 priorities he mentioned were one was housing and the next was jobs. So that was pretty interesting here. And this past Sunday, yesterday, I was invited to join the ward conference at the LDS Church. I was privileged to be able to join the group there, to be able to take in their annual ward conference and have a tour of the facility and get to know the people there a little better. So that was a privilege to be able to do. Thank you. Any other comments? Very sensitive. Must be the plastic. All right. If there is no other comments, then we will move on in our agenda to public hearing. And we have one tonight, bylaw 1995, and we will ask our planner, Gavin Scott, to introduce this bylaw to us tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bylaw 1995 is presented this evening for a public hearing. This bylaw pertains to Lot 1, Block 1 of Plan 14-10704. The proposal is to move from business industrial to heavy industrial. The proposal was advertised for 3 weeks, January 15th, 22nd, and 29th in the Gazette and on social media. A notice was sent to adjacent landowners within the town and within the MD of Willow Creek. Willow Creek and Alberta Transportation were also circulated, and those circulations garnered responses that are attached to your agenda this evening. The Alberta Transportation concerns really have to do with further development, and that a transportation impact assessment would have to be done at that time. Willow Creek was looking for clarification. Senior staff provided a letter to Willow Creek, and they seemed to be satisfied because they did not respond to that letter. So beyond that, we had no circulations or concerns coming into the office from adjacent landowners. So this evening, we look to see if the public has any further comment.
Very good, thank you very much. So I'll request a motion from council to open the public hearing for bylaw 1995. Anyone prepared to make that motion? Councillor Poitras makes the motion to open the public hearing. All those in favor? Motion is carried. This now is a public hearing for bylaw 1995. Anyone wishing to speak for or against bylaw 1995? We would invite you to the mic, state your name, whether your position is for or against, and state your matter, and then we can go from there. So if there is anyone wishing to speak for or against bylaw 1995, we would invite you to do so now. I'll ask one more time. Anyone wishing to speak for or against bylaw 1995? If not, then I will request a motion from council to close the public hearing for bylaw 1995. Councillor Petit makes the motion. Patel, sorry. We'll call it the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. And as a subsequent consideration of the public hearing we just had, the request, the recommendation from administration is to proceed with bylaw 1995 second reading and third reading. Is anyone prepared to make a motion for second reading of bylaw 1995? Councillor Fox makes the motion. Any further discussion and questions for administration, discussion, debate? I think it's quite a simple change. It's making the land zoning the same for both those two parcels. The inclusions or exclusions for each of those zonings are in the land use bylaw. Is there any other comments? Seeing none, we'll call to question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. And a request for third reading of bylaw 1995. Councillor Fox makes the motion for third reading. Any further discussion or debate? If not, I'll call to question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. That was a quick one, Gavin. Thanks for coming out. Moving on to new business, we have 4 items, and the first one is a Willow Creek Foundation requisition, and the Director of Finance, Chris Holbeck, would like to introduce this for us.
Thank you, Mayor Fader. Good evening, Council. Tonight we have the 2025 requisition from the Willow Creek Foundation, which is a requisitioning body within the town of Fort Macleod and Granham for the Seniors Lodge and the Manors, both in Fort Macleod and Granham. So I put down the particulars, the changes from this year's requisition to last year's requisition, some interesting facts. It's gone down because our percentage of the equalized assessment has changed in the last year. So that's interesting and fun, but it doesn't really affect our budget because it just flows through our tax returns, we bill it out to the taxpayers, and the taxpayers pay us, and we pay the Willow Creek, so it's in and out for us. So we are requesting tonight that council refers the Willow Creek's 2025 requisition to the operating budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone prepared to make a motion as per the recommendation? Councillor Patel makes the motion. Any further discussion or questions? Councillor Monteith?
I'm a little confused. Last year, our percentage went up, which made sense to me. It coming down compared to the MD doesn't make a lot of sense, especially that great an amount. Do we have any idea why our percentage is down so much?
So all I can say about that is that the Government of Alberta's equalized assessment it's always 2 years behind times. So I'm not exactly sure why that would be, that ours has such a change from the MD of Willow Creeks and the percentage changes that much.
Okay, just a follow-up. The increase in the budget for the lodge is based on the fact that continual small increases are better than a large increase. The lodge is now facing a situation where revenue expenses are going to be very similar. Past couple of years, a couple things have happened. One is they didn't budget 100% occupancy because there never was 100% occupancy. There is now, and I suspect for a good portion of the future there will be. So there's not going to be an inherent increase in income based on the way it's budgeted. So that's making it a lot tighter. So just to be aware, it's fairly well run. There's a fairly healthy surplus, which is going to be needed as various projects are looked at and might be initiated so that we have a good start on capital costs on that. So it's a well-run organization. It's in very good shape, so it's not like there's going to be a huge surprise in the future. So it's good to see. As I mentioned, though, I'm surprised that our percentage has gone down, but I guess that's good. I'm sure the MD isn't going to be as happy, but it's defined by the provincial government, I'm sure. Thank you.
Yeah, and I don't think there'd be any merit or reason that we would need to put in the budget the same amount and then have a little bit of our own reserve account for them, because in the end it comes off the tax roll anyways, right? So yeah, it's a little bit hard to justify any of that. So the motion is on the floor. Any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, we'll call it to question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Item 2 under new business, 2025 memberships in organizations, and we'll ask our Director of Finance to present this to us.
Thank you, Mayor Fader. Good evening again, Council. So the second item on the agenda is our 2025 memberships. These are larger organizations that the town of Fort Macleod is a member of, like the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, the Alberta Southwest, those types of organizations. These are bills we've already paid for this year. So I've discussed with our executive assistant that maybe we should get this listing ready a little bit earlier at the end of the year. So if council wants to make any changes to our memberships, that we can do them proactively before we start the new year and the bills start coming in and we start paying them. So we have paid these. The one bill from Alberta Southwest never gets here until the fall, so that one's not on the list. But I think there's no change from the prior year's memberships. I think we've been happy. I think council's happy with the memberships that we have. This is just mostly for information. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to help.
Does council have any questions? No? I think this has been kind of status quo for the last number of years, but I think it's always good to bring it up for potential discussion. Councilor Purchase.
Yeah, my only question is about the Highway 3 Twinning Development Association. Now that twinning is underway for Highway 3, I'm just wondering how long that group is going to be active with their advocacy.
Yeah, it's a good question. There's a lot of phases to the Highway 3 twinning developments. That one piece, I think, is one of 7 or 8 different phases. So I think their hope is to keep that association going until they know it's twinned border to border. So I know that design drawings are under works for the Crowsnest Pass. So that's a pretty big step. It's 2 years of designing. And after that, it goes into potential construction tendering process. So it seems like things are moving on quicker than had been anticipated. But at some point, I've not heard of when the association would say they would fold. But at some point, I agree, it's not required anymore. So that's something I could keep my ears open for. Councillor Monteith?
Do you know if the Crow's Nest bypass has higher priority than our interchange?
Then our
Interchange
bypass,
or that we're pushing,
like the stage 1A
Yeah.
or stage 1?
yeah, not the bypass, but
I don't think they're treating them on the same plane level because the Crozes Pass is like $1 billion project, whereas ours is, I think, 10 to 15 million. So I've always advocated that they should have 2 lists and have priorities for each list rather than trying to prioritize a $12 million project into $1 billion category. So yeah, that's been my encouragement because 40 kilometers of highway is a lot different than ours. So, any other comments on the lists? Otherwise, a motion to accept as information. Anyone prepared to make the motion? Councillor Monteith. If there's no further discussion or question, we'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to item I3, donations and sponsorship policy. This is something we reviewed at our finance committee, and our director of community services, Lisa, would like to speak about this one.
Thank you and good evening, Council. As you just mentioned, we discussed this at a regular council meeting as well as the last finance and infrastructure meeting, and we did make some changes and get some feedback. So a couple of things to note: this policy has previously been in place since I believe it was 2018. So we have updated that and increased the CAO approval from $250 to $500, and that's for both monetary gifts and in-kind donations. Council will still approve anything over $500, and council will set a budget at the beginning of the year that will do this, these amounts anyways. And so if anything goes over that budget, that will also have to come back to council. And then we also discussed, we mentioned in here about the STARS tournament kind of specifically, that we would continue to do that even though it's not necessarily a local initiative that funds stay local, but that we still think it's a significant event and we want to continue to support that. So there is also now a note in there that says further exceptions to this policy may be granted by resolution of council should a new initiative or event warrant a similar exception as noted above. So should there be something that's similar to the impact that STARS has, council would then have the ability to approve an exception for that event as well. Outside of that, it's a pretty standard, straightforward policy, and we are asking for council's approval of that tonight.
Thank you very much. Anyone prepared to make a motion as per the recommendation? Councillor Patel makes the motion. Any further discussion on the donation and sponsorship policy? So we've had this in place for a while. It's some small minor edits just to make it a little bit more accurate. So if there's no further discussion, we'll call it the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. And item 4 under new business, grants to organizations, something we review every year before our final budget's approved, and we'll ask our Director of Community Services to highlight this for us.
Thank you. We did receive several grants applications this year, and we are happy to ask council to approve the following grants for the 2025 year. Willow Creek Adult Learning for $3,000 towards conversational English instructions. Fort McLeod and District Allied Arts, $13,500 towards their operational expenses. Fort McLeod Handy Bus, $5,000 towards the vehicle replacement fund, and $15,000 towards operational expenses, for a total of $20,000 to the Handy Bus, with the total grant amounts for 2025 totaling $36,500 at this point. Just to note, we did review these a couple of times and have talked at length about some of the other applications that came in, which a couple are being pulled and reviewed further before any decision is made on those funding applications. And those people have been, or organizations rather, have been told that we will meet with them and discuss it further. So they're not just sitting there kind of in the lurch right now. And anybody that won't get funding because it doesn't fit in the parameters, they also get letters of notification knowing that it just didn't fit, or whatever the reasoning is as to why they weren't successful in the application. But yes, so tonight we're asking for the approval of the Willow Creek Adult Learning, Allied Arts, and the Handy Bus.
Very good. Thank you very much. Anyone prepared to make a motion as per the recommendation? Councillor Fox makes the motion. Any further discussion, debate, questions, highlights? I think all very valuable organizations in the community, and we wish them the very best. So if there's no further questions, I'll call it the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. That concludes the public portion of our meeting. I'll request the motion to go in camera for the 3 in-camera items as in the agenda. Anyone prepared to make the motion? Councillor Patel makes the motion. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you.